A group of volunteers is working to get a Columbus icon back to the city. Mitch Legan has more on Atterbury-Bakalar Air Museum's Project Charlie 119.
It's been nearly half a century since a plane like Charlie was in Columbus.
I like to say it's like building a house. We've been at this roughly about 6 months putting it back together, and so it's starting to look like something.
Charlie is a Fairfield C-119, also called the Flying Boxcar. From 1942 to 1970, Columbus was home to an Air Force base. Pilots training for World War II, Korea, and Vietnam were stationed there.
To load the cargo in here, they would open the doors up, and you can actually see it's like a loading dock right there.
The C-119 was a commonly used transport plane. It carried troops and cargo during the Korean conflict and Vietnam War. In the 1950s, you could often look up and see them patrolling the skies above Columbus.
Into the mid-90s, there were people that tried to work on getting a full-size C-119 here, and they just couldn't quite get it pulled off.
That is until Taylor and the group of volunteers that run the Air Museum found a listing for Charlie in Wyoming and pulled the trigger to bring the plane back to Columbus to display. But the last time Charlie was in the air was 1990, so the group hired someone to break the plane down and drive it from northern Wyoming to Columbus, piece by piece. The crew spent the last 6 months putting Charlie back together. But there's still a ways to go.
We got to keep the birds out. We got to figure out how to keep the birds out and yet not take away from the aesthetic value of the plane and the display.
The pandemic has unsurprisingly caused some hiccups for the project, and the hope is that if everything continues according to plan, the plane will be fully refurbished and outside the Atterbury-Bakalar Air Museum by the end of next year.
So I think this is going to be a great opportunity for students and the youth of Columbus to be able to come out here and interact with this large piece of military history from our past.
And when they say interact, they really mean interact. Museum visitors will be able to go inside the plane to learn how it works, its history, and connection to Columbus. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.